All right, hey ladies and gentlemen, what's up? Welcome to Comic Book Radio. This is episode 82. I'm your host, Peter Cimetti, and tonight my guest is Eric Weathers, the Weatherman. I wonder if he approves of that. We'll see. I want to say hi to you guys before we get started here. Thank you guys for being here tonight. We got H is for Heretic over here. What's up? Dr. Mask in the house. Levi Skeen is here as well. Brian Suddenly Old, and I'm seeing a bunch of the members, you guys are using those emojis. I took down the Behemoth and the White Mountain Yeti one, and I added a couple new ones. Those are just going to be down temporarily. This point on, I'm going to be just adding King Cryptid character emojis, and yeah, so enjoy the ones that are on there right now. We got like TMNT and all kinds of fun stuff. Let's see here. We got Grape Nuka-Cola in the chat. What's up, Grape Nuka-Cola? Also, Wiley J. Draws is here. Hey. Blake Powell in the chat as well. What's up, Blake? Hope you're doing good. We got Matthew here, too. Hey, Matthew. Lone Star Viper also in the chat. Hey, what's up? Yeah, WWF name, the Weatherman. I can never get behind WWE. I don't know, World Wildlife Fund with that, I mean, come on. There's no confusion. Al Nickerson, what's up, Al? Hope you're doing well. And AL is here as well. All right, so before we get started, I just want to let you guys know, a quick reminder, tonight is not only the last day, the last night, the last couple of hours to get the King Cryptid Velcro patch set. All right, the logo, and then we got the New England Cryptid Research Organization patch on kingcryptid.com or alternacomics.com/kingcryptid. I've got a link at the pin to the top of the chat for the secret perk, and this is the last day for that too. And that's a 5 minutes for art sketchbook full of all these portrait sketches I did in 5 minutes. Each one took 5 minutes, not the whole book. And then you also get a 5-minute portrait sketch as well on the first page. That's $25. Shipping is free in the U.S. For the patches, shipping is free worldwide, and those are $10. But tonight is the last night for both of them. So the link is pinned to the top of the chat. Other than that, that's all I'm going to mention it. And let's bring on the man of the hour. We have Mr. Eric Weathers. What's up, Eric?
Hello, Pete. It's good to see you again.
It's good to see you too, man. You were busy.
I am, but you know what? You see that clip from Rocky 6? It gets you motivated. It really does. I'm ready to already get back to work.
Yeah. I have to play that every day on this show just to fire myself up too. Just get me a kick in the ass.
Yeah.
But man, oh man, you've done so much. I want to talk to you tonight. I want to talk about your whole career up to this point. It's going to be a good conversation. We're going to get to know the path of Eric Weathers, who has done so many things. You're continuing to evolve as a creator, and you get better and better and better. And I really want to talk about you developing a lot of those skills over the years. And for those that don't know in the chat, I had published a short story in the If Anthology, 2015, the very first If Anthology that we did back in the day. We did like 4 or 5 of them. And Eric lettered a story in that book, 2015.
I drew a story in that book.
You drew it too? Holy smokes.
I did.
I thought you had just lettered it.
Yeah, I drew it too.
Look at that. I mean, it's incredible. So I want to go all the way back to what made you fall in love with comics. Let's start there.
That's a great question. They were always around for me. I had them just in the house. I don't know where they showed up at first, but they were there. Whether it was my brother, he's not really a nerd. He's into sports, not into the comics, or maybe one of his friends or one of my friends, but I had them. And at that time in the 90s, they were easily accessible, a lot more than they are now in terms of just being able to go to the local mom and pop grocery store and pick them up off a spinner rack. I remember getting, you know what, now that I think about it, I do remember my first comic book. It was a trade paperback of the Wolverine story by Frank Miller. That's what it was.
Ooh, that's a good place to start.
Yeah, yeah. And I remember just poring over those pages, thinking, "This is amazing." That opening scene with a bear fight, and he cuts the bear's arm off, and gets in a bar fight after that, and then fights Silver Samurai.
Yeah,
Samurai.
Silver Samurai.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a wonderful story. I still have that actually. It's one of the. That's one I'm not ever gonna get rid of. So yeah, that was my first comic. It took me a while to remember that. But growing up in the 90s, we were trading the Marvel trading cards and watching X-Men and Batman the Animated Series on Fox Kids. And it was just sort of everywhere, at least for me. All my friends had comics. We did a lot of trading of those cards, trying to get our own complete sets, which I don't think it ever happened for me. I never got to get a full box set of every single card.
Yeah, I had to go back years later and just go to eBay.
Yeah, fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I was just sort of there, and then I'm sure that and the Ninja Turtles were the what I loved to draw all the time, and I spent a lot of time doing that. So yeah,
Yeah.
it goes back.
That's great, man. And for you, when you were getting into these stories and comics, were you creating any of your own as well? I know as a kid, I used to create my own kind of stuff. Were you doing anything like that?
Yeah, I did. I would draw little goofy things for my friends when I was much younger. When I got older, I think it was about junior year of high school, maybe sophomore year of high school. I got really, I guess you could say, more serious about it when I was like, wait a second, I think I can make this. I want to be a comic book artist. I made up my own sort of comic because I had one called The Outcasts, and it was the mutant story, and all of my characters just looked like the wrestlers from the '90s. So one guy looked like Stone Cold, one guy looked like The Undertaker,
Nice.
and then I had another story that was like a barbarian style. I think I called it the Emerald Dragon, and
Oh,
it was like kid sees his parents get killed, is on a quest for vengeance for the whole soul. That whole thing, and there's a magical sword
I dig
and
that
all of
name,
that.
the Emerald Dragon.
Yeah.
I like
Now it
that name.
sounds like it would be like a bar or like a pub or something. But yeah, that was the name of the sword, and it was a magical sword. So
It's
maybe I
great
could
that
do
you
something with
were,
that.
yeah, it's great that you were always doing that,
Hmm.
and that you've kind of come full circle with that too. And so for you, when you were starting to pursue this in a serious path, what kind of path did you take? Were you going indie and stayed indie, or did you try to go towards the bigger publishers or other publishers?
Always indie for me. You when you start out, you do have those like, man, what if I could work on the X-Men or Spider-Man? Those were the two big ones for me. But I was always making my own stuff. So it once I really got into it, I realized that I didn't want to work on anybody else's stuff. I really enjoyed working on my own.
Hmm.
And even now, it's like outside of maybe the Ninja Turtles, would I ever work on any? Or I would never. I don't feel like I would work on anything mainstream art wise that wasn't my own, unless I was offered a Ninja Turtle story or something. That would just take me back to being an 8-year-old in kindergarten scribbling on copy paper with
Which
crayons.
which turtle's your favorite?
Well, it's changed over the years. It was Raph for the longest time, but I'm getting closer to a Donatello as my favorite. So
Oh, interesting.
yeah,
Yeah, mine's still, I guess, Raph, but Michelangelo's inching up.
yeah.
But so the turtles hold a soft spot in your heart, huh?
I guess you could say that. Yeah,
I think
soft
it's like
spot,
that. Yeah,
tender.
I think it's like that for a lot of us. I'm the same way. I got into all of this stuff first by drawing the turtles like crazy,
Mm-hmm.
And then, I kind of is the same thing. I kind of had comics around too, but the Turtles is just everything about it. I thought it was awesome, and that was just me drawing crayon Ninja Turtle drawings on the walls, and I'm sure that was a very fun thing for my parents.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure they loved it. I
Yeah,
know I would if my kids started drawing on the walls. So
but I mean, I think you would love it.
I don't know if it were Ninja Turtles, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Not just like they're going, to town
yeah.
on it.
They're
And
older now, right? They're 8 and 13, so there might actually be some good artwork on the walls
oh,
if
there you
they
go.
tried it. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, they all hold, I think, a bit of a weird, special place in our hearts. It hit a
Mm-hmm.
lot of us generationally at the right time, and like you're talking about, everything else it's almost like thing for thing with what I was into as well. With those
Oh, that's
shows, the
cool.
cards, I got into the cards big time because the
Yeah.
cards were like it was like a doorway into knowing about what characters to read in the
Mm-hmm.
comics, and you don't have a lot of money, so you go in there and it's like either you get a comic or do you get like a pack or two of the cards.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get the cards, you can learn more about, make better buying decisions as a 7 year
Yeah.
old or whatever about what
Yeah.
comic book you want to get.
And the thing with those cards is you mentioned it a little bit is you get to learn way more about the characters a whole lot faster because you get the biography on the back and their power ratings and all of that. And I remember there was a whole series of Spider-Man cards I was collecting, and there were a lot of characters I learned of for the first time through that card set, like Hydro Man. I hadn't seen him in a comic yet, but I
Oh
had
yeah,
this really
yeah.
cool Hydro Man trading card. I thought, well, this guy's cool. It's like Sandman, but he's made of water. So, yeah, it's really cool that all of that was around, and every one of those was a door into that world.
Yeah, totally. And that's what I love seeing about all of the indie stuff that's being done now is everyone it's not like the indie stuff from 20, 25 years ago
Hmm.
where people were you did your comic and there was no like merch. You didn't really do merch. Like I didn't
No.
really see much merch from people, maybe a sticker, but now people are doing stuff that is as good or sometimes better than what's being done by the mainstream. And a lot of people are even digging back into the 90s part of it and doing all those fun things that really broadened the scope, I think, of
Hmm.
getting into and getting immersed in that world. And you're doing some cool stuff too with your campaign with Battle Brick Road. And
Thank you.
yeah, I mean, look at that beautiful hat. That's just a big right on the hat, right? That's like
Yep.
not it's not a patch, right?
It is our patch that from the first campaign, and this just my I had my wife sew this on here for me. So it's not even
Oh,
this isn't even official merch. This is
that's a
custom.
beaut then. Yeah,
Yeah. Thank you.
did a great job, and it looks great. And did you design that logo?
Unfortunately, no. This was done by James Anderson,
Oh wow,
who's done some work with like Ethan, and I think he did the Inglorious Rex logo. He did a lot of stuff, but he did this for me
oh
a few
yeah,
years
yeah,
ago.
yeah.
Yeah,
He's a solid logo designer. Yeah,
absolutely.
I thought that was yours, but yeah, he's good. So when it comes to you getting more serious about comic book making,
Hmm.
what were some of the first steps that you took as an indie creator, getting out there and wanting to work on books, maybe not being too sure of what to do or feeling maybe not too comfortable with your skill set? What were some of the
Mm.
first steps you took?
Um, well, ultimately, it wasn't a step that I took on my own volition. It was I was pushed out the door. Um, I had a couple of friends and I had come up with this idea about a World War II zombie apocalypse thing, and this was before even like Fubar was a thing. It was before Walking Dead had blown up and all of that. And I thought it'd be kind of cool if we had this zombie thing, and we came up with this idea called Flying Fortress, and I had quote unquote worked on it for like 2 years, but I never really did anything with it. It was just I'd do a sketch here, a sketch there. Yeah, I'm working on a comic book, quote unquote. And then my best friend and co-creator, Andy Moore said, "Hey, we got to get a comic book made because I just bought us a table at Planet Comic Con in Kansas City in April," and it was like
So you want the table
December.
first?
Yeah, bought the table. We were like, "Oh my gosh, it's time to get to work!" So we put together an 8-page ash can that we printed at like Kinko's, and it was a literal ash can, like folded in 8.5 by 11, folded in half, stapled them at home. I think we made like 30 or 50 of them, something like that, and brought them in a short box, set up a table, did the whole thing. And I'm pretty sure we sold out or nearly sold out because it was like a $3 little piece of nothing, in terms of trying to make a sale. And we had a
Yeah.
couple of prints that we drew up too and had those printed. And it was a great experience for my first convention ever. I had never gone to a convention as a fan. I'd always been, that was my first one ever. So, and even now, I haven't gone to a con just to go. Not a Comic Con. I've gone to other convention things, an art convention in particular that was like fantasy art and concept art convention I went to a few years back, but never only as a creator. And that was the real spark. Was It wasn't a lot of money, but it was money. I was like, okay, this seems like it got actual, like, people actually like this idea, so let's really run with it. So what's up, Dan? So that's really what started it, is him buying that table, and we did this mad dash, like 4 months to get these pages done. I'd never really drawn a comic book before. We colored it, or drew it, inked it, colored it, lettered it, and did it all, by the skin of our teeth to get it there on time. But yeah, that was the start of it, and I think that was 2011 was when it was like, okay, now we're doing it.
Yeah, that was a good year in terms of a lot of different creators coming on the scene. I remember that year specifically being exciting because it felt like it was the start of something. And it wasn't necessarily like everyone's gonna do great and everyone's gonna make a fame and fortune kind of thing happening for them. It was more about a boom of creativity that was just starting to happen, and there was a
Right.
couple people in there where I felt like I think there's gonna be a lot more coming from these guys. And
Yeah,
look at
there were
that.
a lot of guys that, like, either that year or maybe the year before, but you're right around that time, this whole thing kind of swept up in that indie scene. I think it got easy, printers popped up so people could
Yep.
easily find a printer to get their book. Even, print on demand was a thing. Was basically brand new for us for doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
And just the ease of being able to get that and being able to get, a small thing, getting posters made up and things, and table costs weren't prohibitive back then either. So ultimately, altogether, it was very, I know, perfect storm, I guess you could call it.
Yeah, it really was, especially for indie talent, because I think if I'm remembering correctly, I think like 2009 or 2010, crowdfunding started to become a thing in a
It
way.
was around there because I know that we did a Kickstarter. I think it was 2012 when we did our first one,
Yeah,
and
and
it
like
was
most
new. It
of
was
us,
early. Yeah,
yeah, most of us had no idea what the hell to do. If you raised like $500 or 1,000, you were like, "Oh my god,
it felt like $1 million.
yeah, this is
Yeah,
incredible."
yeah.
And it was exciting and new, and no one knew what the hell to do with it, and but it was great. It was another avenue, and it had promise.
Mm-hmm.
And lo and behold, we got 10, 12 years or whatever ahead of that, and it's crazy to see the avenues being paved by the independent creator.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's unbelievably exciting. This is the best time for it. I think that this has the most potential to make you actually get something out there, make it sustainable, do it in a way that you want to do it, and it's
mm-hmm.
not this big soul crushing event, and you can actually incorporate the beautiful part of it. I think is to incorporate the engagement directly with the reader, as
Yeah.
opposed to the traditional system always keeps you at arm's length. You're at arm's length from the retailer, you're at arm's length from the customer, you're really at arm's length from the customer. You're not even supposed to think about the customer.
Which
That's
is
like not.
stupid.
Yeah, it's very strange. It's like you're supposed to market to the retailer, You know, the
Yeah.
distributor and the retailer would get pissed if you're actually trying to market to the customer,
It's
which
like
is
telling the sports basketball player, football player, whatever. Don't worry, don't interact with the fans.
you play for the owner of the team.
Yeah,
You play for
yeah.
the venue.
Don't worry about those people in the stands.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're not performing for them. What the hell's wrong with you? You know, and it's when you get to this stage of it, and I think there's a lot of people that don't understand what that system is like and how it could really be. I've said it before. You're doing 3 times the work to make a third of the money, and it's a
Oh,
very
that's for sure.
yeah, it's a very cold, kind of weird, detached thing. You know,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. As opposed to, it's so exciting to get there. Even right now, we've got people watching it. Thank you guys for being here watching. You know, they're in tune, wanting to know what's going on with what you're up to, who you are, what you're about, what your book is like. You know, so if you guys do want to check out Eric's book, of course, we got the link in the chat, in the description of the show, and also you can go subscribe to Eric's channel too.
Yes.
And yeah, he's got some good videos on there, and that's also the links are in the description of the show. But it's a wonderful thing. It's a whole invigorating thing that you don't get in the traditional aspect of it.
Yeah, and that's probably why you see a lot of creators do that convention circuit too, because even if they are in that mainstream, they are there is that you want to get to know the fans, and you're gonna if you go to the same shows year to year, year after year, you're gonna get to know fans, but on a first name basis. They're gonna come back, get their book signed, or get a sketch, and that happened for me because that's how we built the whole thing. That's what it was: is do this convention,
Yeah.
same convention every year. We did it for like 6 or 7 years, and we did a whole bunch of other ones. But we for sure are always going to hit certain ones. Planet Comic Con's a big one. I'm actually hoping to get in again this year. I'm on the wait list. I'm supposed to hear, well, by today, but
Tell him,
it's a
don't you know who
weekend,
I am?
so
I've lettered like 5,000
yeah,
books.
that's what I should say.
And then,
I
be like,
that's the
hey,
thing is
Battle Brick Road,
Battle
come
Brick
on,
Road.
guys.
That's what I was going with was Battle Brick Road. So,
Yeah.
but I'm trying to start those engines back up again because it was and that takes a lot. There's a lot of travel and all that. So yeah, I think it's great. I think get out there, and this is what we do here on YouTube and all of that is
Yeah.
get out there and meet the fans. Shake hands and kiss babies.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like a digital book tour slash convention slash panel. It's like everything
Yeah,
fun
sort of
rolled
all the
into
above.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so once you're doing that, and you were getting out there, and you guys took a very big risk, but it was also kind of like I guess it lit the fire because you're like, this is real now. We got to do something. We can't just be there, sit at that table, and look pathetic.
Yeah.
So you went out there. You made a book. You put that ash can out, and which is great. I suggest everybody start that way. Start small. Start with something you could do. Get out there. Dip your toe into the waters, and then slowly get in. Some people jump all the way in, and maybe that works for them. But most people, it doesn't work for them. But don't
No.
be I don't suggest being too scared of it. Just get in there, do something, get it out. So for you, when you were getting that stuff done, what led down a path further for you that you were getting more and more out there? Because it seems like you obviously enjoyed doing that and getting that done. What was the next thing that happened after that?
Well, we did Flying Fortress for 6 or 7 years, and we did a total of 8 books, eight floppies, 9 with the ash can. So we did that for several years, and by the end of it, the thing that kept me going was I wanted to get to the next book, and I wanted to finish the story. As small as we would sell 30 books and a handful here and there over a few shows. You think, okay, we've got a couple hundred books out in the wild. It feels like there's thousands of people that know about you at this point. So I didn't want to, let anybody down. So I was like, we got to get the next one, and it was just a side thing. At the end of it, I think it was 2016. So I guess that'd be 5 years. 2016, we'd wrapped up everything, and I'd done one last convention, and I was kind of burnt out on all of it. The cons were fun. You'd make a little bit of margin, but really it was just to pay for the next one. And I was kind of getting burned out with the grind, and the book took a lot out of me to get it all done because it was just, you know how a lot is making comic books. It took a lot out of me, and I wanted to pursue other artistic endeavors, and so I started learning painting and digital painting and concept design and things like that, and I started maneuvering down that road, and through that I came up with this weird idea for a Wizard of Oz book, and that's what led me back into comics. But there was a I won't call
Oh
it a
wow.
detour because it's still artistic pursuits, which I will always have. But had I not, I guess decided to try other things, Battlebrick probably wouldn't even be here. So
Wow, man. I didn't know that that was the that this idea was percolating for that long.
yeah, it was around 20. I probably came up with the idea in 2016 just as like a fun little sketch, like just putting ideas on paper. And then I thought, originally the idea was I was gonna come up with a portfolio to shop around to different video game companies to try and get hired on
Mm.
as a concept artist. And as I was doing the concept art for it, I thought this actually might be a good comic book. And it had been a year or two since I'd worked on a comic book. I thought maybe I can do that again. And so around 2017, we did another ash can. I think this one was only 5 pages. We did an ash can, and the same idea. You start small and then see if it can
Yeah.
go forward. And after that ash can, and then turned it into what it is now,
So why Wizard
essentially.
of Oz? Did Wizard of Oz always strike a chord with you?
Not really. There are concept art prompts that you get, and one of them is, sometimes it'll be like we need a goblin warrior in a western, 1800s western. What would that look like? You draw whatever that looks like. And one of the, I guess, prompts they give you to come up with ideas is to take two things that don't normally go together and put them together and see what you can come up with.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, well, I like shooter video games. I was a big Battlefield fan at the time, Battlefield 3 and 4. I forget what was out at the time, but I was into that, and I thought that'd be kind of neat if I could take, maybe come up with some, you know, concepts for whatever that shooter might be. And I don't remember why the Wizard of Oz, honestly.
Hmm.
I think there was a moment where I was thinking, Ninja Turtles. Like, I want to do a series of drawings where the Ninja Turtles are wearing proton packs. That was before it had actually been done. And I thought, well, that'd be kind of fun. And then I did like X-Men and World War II. So I would do these mashups of different characters. And I don't know why Wizard of Oz. Maybe it was on the TV at the time. Honestly, couldn't tell you why that one. I mean, I live in Kansas, so it's around.
I thought that was the answer you were gonna go with,
It's
but this is
it's really not.
surprising.
Like, I'm not really sure why it was there, but you know, I was thinking it was probably just like thinking about in a game like what roles you can play and how that would work. And then you see Scarecrow and you're like, oh, that's a guy in a ghillie suit. And okay, well, you can extrapolate from there with the Lion being a heavy weapons guy and all of that. So it worked out that way. And my original idea was very grounded, realistic. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they were going to be all humans. Maybe the Tin Man would still be a robot, but it was set in the U.S. Somewhat futuristic, but not too futuristic. And the Yellow Brick Road was like a drug running road, and the Emerald City was probably Seattle because it's the name for Seattle. And it wasn't until I found Zeb where I was like, "Hey, I want to make a comic book. You write comic books. Let's make this happen." I gave him. He picked that idea out of two I had pitched him, and turned it into what it is now, which is
Oh,
wonderful.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's funny where you're coming from building it up as a video game in a way, because Wizard of Oz really lends itself so well to that format. If
Mm-hmm.
anything, there's probably an argument that could be made that every basis for an RPG type game is
Yeah.
Wizard of Oz, where you're just meeting
Yeah.
these characters along the way, and they join your squad, and and then you're fighting different bosses to get to where you gotta
Mm-hmm.
go, and yeah, and there's different things where you get more experience and achievements, and you get elevated in terms
Yeah.
of your skill set, and yeah, it's interesting that you approached it like that first, and yeah, definitely it's public domain. So
Mm-hmm.
with it being public domain, though, what were some of the things that you had to look out for?
Um.
Because while the book, the story's public domain,
Yeah.
the movie version is not.
The movie version is not. No, I mean we can't have anything from the movie. Um. You just have to make things generic. Anybody can have a flying ape. In any story, that's just an animal hybrid. That's fine. But one of the things that I was very conscious of is really making it stand apart from the Wizard of Oz. So
Mm.
that was that's the most fun thing for me is to, in terms of character designs and concepts and even story arcs that we go through, or even new, we'll throw new characters in it that are only in Battlebrick, or they're not derivatives of anything. But in terms of like the look of the book, the setting, it has a flavor, a spirit of Oz, but it's not. There's nothing. We don't even have her name's not even technically Dorothy Gale. It's Thea Gale. Dorothea is a their nicknames for Dorothy.
Hmm.
And I wanted to shy away from anything that would make you even think of the movie, in terms of character design, even dialogue lines, that the characters would say. I don't want them to say the things that are said in the movie, specifically because when you're reading it, I want you to think of the book and not anything else. So if we have, Dorothy say there's no place like home, you're instantly going to think of the movie and you're not going to be thinking about what's in front of you.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I didn't want it to be childish, or not to say I don't want it to be kid friendly, because kids have read it and they have loved it, at least the older 10, 11, 12 year olds. But just anything to make it stand out, but still have just that spirit of what Oz was.
Yeah, to kind of
So
take the concept but
mhm.
build upon it and make it your own.
Yeah, take things out that don't work, and put new things in their place, and just hopefully, um, make it your own. And I think we've done pretty well. So
Yeah, I would agree. And that's the thing that's interesting to me about the public domain part of it, is that there are aspects where you can take something that is public domain and do exactly like what you see companies like Disney do all the time, or you get MGM when they adapted Wizard of Oz, and you have these certain aspects that are entirely unique to the version you're creating. But
hmm
in your specific instance, where it's not a direct adaptation and it is very, very, very loosely based on, you could have had this. Honestly, you probably could have even changed a little bit more, and then like no one would even guess
yeah,
that this had to do with that. That's how
I
that's how
agree.
much it's
Yeah,
changed. Yeah.
yeah. But I think, having that connection just a little bit,
It's nice. It's a nice
it
wink and a nod.
yeah,
Yeah.
it intrigues people because they think, oh wow, I've never seen a Wizard of Oz like that. So at least gets people to look in the window, if not come in the front door.
Yeah. And
So
then you don't have to be like, "Oh, I don't know what this Wizard of Oz thing is.
never heard of
I'll
that.
have to look that up."
Yeah.
It could be like, "No, we're aware, and it was an inspiration, and
Mm-hmm.
this is something we're doing." But so to backtrack a little bit, because I'd
Yeah.
be remiss if I didn't talk lettering with you. I'm a
Of
letterer
course.
as well. I love lettering, and I love your videos. You do a solid job on the
Thank you.
videos.
I
Yeah,
got
that
to
you're
do more
doing.
of those.
Yeah, I agree, man. And it's almost like, and I hate to encourage it in a way, because it's going to take work away from you.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like we all eventually hit a point when you want to start kind of passing on some of the knowledge. Not all the knowledge,
Yeah.
but some of it. Some of the basics at the very least, and then let people just kind of run with it and learn some more. But they'll find that, hey, that Eric Weathers, he did a solid job, and I really like what I learned from him, and I want to support more of what he does. So there's that nice factor of
Yeah.
it too that happens.
Yeah.
But lettering for you, was that something that, because this happens to a lot of people, where did you fall into it because you were like, yeah, hey, why not, save a couple bucks, learn how to letter? Or was it something that, you're interested in graphic design, lettering kind of speaks to you, it means something to you?
Well, it's a little bit of both, actually. I had studied graphic design in college, and so I had a bit of that background. The the way it did sort of happen that I'm gonna save a couple bucks because back then I didn't have anything, so it was like if this comic book's gonna get made, we have to do it ourselves. We have to write it,
Yeah.
pencil ink color letter. So that was just one of those things that was in the pipeline. And let's not forget prepress. I had to learn how to do that too. That
That's
was one of
true.
the things that was in the pipeline, and I've said this in the past, but I'd get to the point where I'm coloring the page and I'm sick of that page. I don't want to do it anymore, and I really didn't like coloring. I still don't like to color now. Any piece that I color, I'm gritting my teeth through it the whole way through because I don't like it. But when that was done, there was this, I guess, dopamine release, like, "Oh, I don't have to color that page anymore."
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
I go to letter it, and I'm guessing there's some Pavlovian response to it because I actually enjoyed the lettering part, even though at those first books, I can look back at them and think you had no idea what you were doing, but they were relaxing. So it was just a point of, this was the point, the part of making the comic book where it became a real comic book, and I guess there was a lot of fun in that too because we were actively writing it as we're lettering it. So yeah, I think there was just that sort of, I don't know, subconscious thing that's happening because you're enjoying the process of finally finishing your comic book, and lettering is in that. I think that just gave me a positive spin, a positive look at it, and
Yeah.
and I like to problem solve, and art is problem solving, from drawing all the way up into lettering, and all of that stuff is you're trying to solve problems. So that has become a big part of it, especially now working on a lot of other books. Is you're trying to problem solve how to make it look good and read good, but yeah, it was just this getting to that point and thinking, oh, this is nice. And then I got I was in that in between phase where I'm still working on painting, and I hadn't yet started Battle Brick Road, and I had a buddy who I was working on some video editing. We had a small, actually it was James. We worked together with doing some I edited the videos that he shot for just a small production thing we were doing, and he was like, "Hey, this comic book, these guys are local here in town, and they're looking for a letterer. I've seen your lettering in Flying Fortress. You should apply." He applied too, and I got the job, and that was that click in my head. I was like, "Wait a second, I could actually like make some money doing this." So that's where I jumped in and said, "You know what? Let's give that a shot." And right after that book, I didn't know it. I didn't know it at the time because I was in constant contact with the artist who I had known from the convention scene. I'd never met the writer. That writer turned out to be Zeb Hatfield, who's writing Battle Brick Road with me and co-creating it with me.
Oh,
So
look at that. Wow.
yeah, so that was weird. But yeah, I lettered that book, and it was like, I can do this. And then all of CG happened. Your boy and John Malin and Ethan and all of that. And John Malin's got Graveyard Shift Volume 1 up, and he's looking for a letterer. And I had just gotten paid for lettering a gig. I was like, I can do this. I remember I was at my in-laws' house. It's a vacation, not vacation, but like a holiday, or we were there for a weekend. And I saw that tweet of John asking for a letterer. And I was looking at my wife, I go, I can do this. I can do this. We have to go home so I can do this. So we left a day early. I went home. I ran to the computer and put my resume in, so to speak. I lettered a page that was on the campaign. I didn't have any script or anything, so I didn't know what to work with. But all he said is they wanted a 1990s Tom Orzechowski style Spawn style lettering. So I grabbed Spawn #1 and just completely aped the whole style. And I didn't have a script, so I took the lyrics from One by Metallica and I just peppered them through as caption boxes and word balloons and all of that. And that's what did it. That's what sealed the deal, and that job led to every door opening in front of me.
Look at that. Wow, man. The thing that I really like about your lettering and every letterer that's as good as you is it makes the book look great. And what I mean by that is this. We know what bad lettering looks like, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, we know how to quantify what needs to be corrected. But a lot of people look at it and they don't necessarily know. They just know this looks good, this looks bad. And that's fine. You
Yeah.
don't have to know more than that. You know, you don't have to go in there and say that this, that, and the other thing.
Right.
You don't have to give a whole breakdown and all that. No, if it looks good to you, it looks good to you. If it looks bad, it looks bad. But when you get in there with your letters, it's great to see how you're able to understand, because there's a lot of solid letterers that don't do this still. To be able to direct the eye and the flow of the page and work with the art and understand that it has to follow a certain thing and not block up important aspects of the art,
Yeah.
not underutilize the space that's already given, and to create a scene in which you're emphasizing not just the artwork and the events and things that are occurring and the composition, but also to kind of have almost like a connect the dots scenario, because there's
Yeah.
a lot of great lettering where you can see that when there's no lettering on the page, it's like, this is a bit empty feeling, and then there's some letterers that come in and they're good, they do the things right, but there's a certain aspect of it, maybe it's like a visual interpretation that they're lacking, where maybe they hug the borders too close, or the balloon tails are not really conducive to the flow of the art, or there's no consistency sometimes, it's things like
Yeah.
that. And your stuff is super consistent, your stuff is always on point, and more than anything, what really to me elevates your lettering is you understand the tone of the book, and you visually get that across with the font, with the balloon style, all that stuff. There's a lot of
Nice.
letterers that don't really do that, where it feels like, was that really the best font for this? That kind of
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That's it's interesting you say that, because that's what I try to do is find something that fits the feel. If it's a, for lack of a better term, very indie book with very indie artwork, there's a certain looseness you have to have because the art itself is loose. Or even if the art isn't, amateur, it's just an artist who is more cartoony
Yeah.
or, anything like that, then having rigid word balloons with a structured font, it just doesn't fit. So, and on the other hand, if you've got highly rendered artwork, then those more indie loose rough balloons and a little rougher of a font don't fit very well there either. So that you want to try and match the design of everything to the look of the book, and if nothing else, make that look of your lettering consistent throughout the book, which that can be difficult when you're in a position like me and you're working on like these crowdfunded books that come out once a year or even more.
Yeah.
Some decisions that I've made on some books that I'm continuing to work on now, it's like, well, if I had known what I know now in this, maybe I wouldn't have decided to use that style of balloon or whatever, because now it's like, it's a headache or whatever. But, it is certainly something I've strived to do.
Yeah,
That.
it's akin to the aspect of when you're an artist, and if you can't draw the faces consistently,
Mm-hmm.
it's like it's jarring. So when
Mm-hmm.
letterers come in and they're not necessarily like they're good enough, but they're not giving a consistency in tone. They're not giving a consistency in style. Sometimes you'll notice certain letterers when they're just getting there. They're just like in the in between, where like the balloon tails are kind of, sometimes they're fatter, sometimes they're skinnier, sometimes the
Mm-hmm.
lengths are all crazy and they don't need to be,
Mm-hmm.
things like that set it apart. And then there's the dreaded that drives me nuts with the crossbar eye kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So there's always stuff like that, but
Yeah.
it's all these various things. Before we go to a little break, and then I put the link into the chat if anyone wants to come on here and talk to you.
Oh.
I want to ask you, and can we go like an hour and a half? Is that cool with you?
Um, I believe so.
Okay,
Let me
that
check my
would
DMs.
be till 10:30 then, my time.
Yeah, I think so. That
Okay,
should be
good.
fine.
And if you need to cut out earlier than that, if something pops up, no problem. I want to ask you before we go to a quick break. Uh, give me two things in the positive and in the negative in terms of lettering. And what I mean by that is two things that people can do to work on making themselves a better letterer, and
Okay.
two things that they should avoid doing when they're lettering.
Two things. So I need to give this now or after the break?
Do you want some time to think? Because then we can
No,
we
I,
can do
I
that.
I think I can do it now. Two things
Okay.
you can do to improve your lettering. I think the easy thing is a couple of easy things. You kind of mentioned them, but be consistent. No matter what, be consistent with the choices you make. So if you have balloon tails that are wide, just make them all wide. Or if they're thin, obviously you want to. I think consistency over everything is key. At least you have a style. When if you're consistent, there's a style there. So that is a good one, and stay off the damn characters as much as possible. Characters, hands and feet, and light sources. Stay away from those, and because if your word balloon is behind over the sun, then it looks like the light source is the word balloon. So that, and it's not always possible. Sometimes you have to sacrifices have to be made, but. But yeah, those are two things you can do to improve. And what was the other question?
And then two things that they should look to avoid.
Look to, well, I guess it kind of was the same thing. Avoid tangents whenever possible.
That's a good one. And
And
just explain for those that don't know what the tangent is.
there's always a good explanation, but me trying to figure out how to remember that. But basically, the edge of the balloon, right up on like the edge of a panel border or a character's nose or face or whatever.
Yeah, the two
Try to have
lines
those
touching.
balloons, yeah, two lines touching. Try to have those balloons free floating. Obviously, some people got some crazy line work, and it's not always possible. But again, so avoid tangents and avoid going too crazy with sound effects.
That's a good
Some
one.
of them, some of them can be, it can get distracting. So I would say, because there are some books where I work on where there's a lot of sound effects, and I find it that if I sort of pull back on the making them colorful and a little over the top, it lets the art show through a little bit more. So being able to know when to pull back, so avoiding going crazy too much.
Yeah, there's some books I've seen where it's like everything that looks like it might produce a sound, they put a sound effect, and I'm like,
Oh yeah, that's a bit much.
yeah, yeah. It was like one
Yeah.
page in particular. I can remember it now. It had like 15 sound effects for every single thing. Like if someone was walking, it'd be like step, step, step.
Yep,
If
I've
someone
had to
grabbed
do
something,
that
it'd be
before.
like
I'm like,
grab.
come on, grab. Yeah, it's like, all right. At some point, the reader is let's let them hear what they want to hear,
Yeah.
not every little sound.
All right, we're going to take a quick little break. Just 1
Okay.
minute. You're watching Comic Book Radio, episode 82. My guest tonight is Eric Weathers. I'm your host, Peter Simeti. We'll be right back. 1 minute. See you soon. Welcome back. Thank you guys for being here with us tonight. I've got the link here. If you guys do want to join, don't be shy. If you've got a question or comment for Eric, come on board. Let's see here. Brian wants to know, Eric, do you create your own fonts or do you pull from a library of fonts?
90% of the time I pull from a library because they're so good. I get fonts from Blambot. There's a lot of free fonts there if you're making your own indie comic. But over the past few years, I went into the upper echelon of comic book fonts, the Comic Craft guys, where that's where all the professional fonts are. But I am working on a font right now that is my own handwriting, and I recreated Cyberfrog's font from the 90s based off of the original lettering, but I had to digitize it all, and that's even still a work in progress because I'll come across it's around there for sure.
Wow. That's a lot of credits, man.
Yeah, it is.
Man, oh man. Yeah. Wow, indeed, Brian. Wow, indeed. I want to give a quick look here while we're waiting. Maybe if anybody does want to join us again, we've got the StreamYard link there. I want to take a look at your site here. I got a few questions for you about that.
Okay, I'll try to answer them.
All right, so you got battlebrickroad.com. That's the place to go to pick up Battle Brick Road 2. You got 480 backers on board. You raised $27,823. And there's a stretch goal coming up here, $30,000 stretch goal. You get a Lion trading card. So as far as this goes, this is I love seeing this kind of stuff occurring where people are doing a lot of these things on their own sites as well. What was the impetus for this?
Shadow banning was the impetus for this. Yeah, and Indiegogo was I had a sign up page for a while because we were always on this like, okay, when will we be ready to launch the campaign? And the sign up page just was kind of there forever. And after a couple of months, it got shadow banned. You couldn't search for Battle Brick Road 2 anymore on Indiegogo and find it.
Oh wow!
And it was one of many that sort of had that struggle. And so I was like, well, I'm going to launch a campaign that isn't going to have any sort of organic reach behind it, because if you can't search for it, it's not showing up and trending. What's the point? If you have the direct link, I might as well make that direct link my own website.
Very true.
Which I had done. I would just say sign up at battlebrickroad.com, and that would redirect to the Indiegogo. And then when I finally decided, you know what, I don't like this anymore, I said, I'll just make my own site. So I was following in the footsteps of those who'd come before, and I had a lot of questions that Michael Bancroft was willing to answer for me, thankfully. I use a lot of the same stuff that he does. Yeah, I think it turned out all right. Having full control over everything is great. I don't have to pull any punches on any of the artwork we may or may not want to show. We customize it and put whatever up we want. We can take it down when we want. If the artwork gets updated, then we can change that too, which is a big one. Like even on the perks themselves, that can be updated. Yeah, it was just about saying, why not? Let's give it a shot. Make that the first fruits sort of for us, and then later on down the road, maybe we'll cast a line into the other crowdfunding websites. But for now, it's all for us.
And has the experience been positive so far?
It has been. I only had one hiccup on launch day, and it was just had to do with inventory tracking on the back end. I had set something to basically if the inventory is 0, you can check whether or not you want to continue to sell it. And I didn't check that one on like one book, and it made the 2 big bundles. It made them like unpurchasable for like 5 minutes till I fixed it. So I mean, really, it's been different because it's not there. So, but again, if I'm shadow banned, it's like it's not there anyways. So being on like an Indiegogo or something. So and it's there's more pavement to pound, so to speak. You got to get out there and do more work to make sure people see it. But I'm happy with the progress so far.
Nice, man. Yeah, I think it's great, and I mean, right now we're still doing things with. We've got a campaign on Indiegogo, and then we do
Mm-hmm.
stuff on the Alterna site,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of the Alterna creators are going to start dipping their toes into the crowdfunding aspect for their books too. But it's one of those things where everyone's doing what they got to do, and I think that everyone should explore the opportunities and avenues in front of them, and until those don't really become viable anymore.
Right.
Like there's people that are very excited about going towards putting their comics in retail, and
Mm-hmm.
God bless them. I hope it does great. That's not really an avenue that I wish to fully pursue the way it is.
Yeah.
It's one thing to like sell to a retailer or whatever, but to go through the avenues of distribution, been there, done that, and until I see really, really big changes, I don't really care to go back. But it's
Yeah.
one of those things where I think you are at a stage where I think you could do something like this, and obviously you are doing something like this, and you're having
Mm-hmm.
success with it, which is great, man. And
Thank
I
you.
want to see more people do stuff like this too when they've reached that stage and they feel like, yeah, you know what, I think it's time, and everyone kind of gets there when they get there, but it's
Yeah.
it's great to see you doing this, and it looks sharp, it looks very
Thank you.
nice. Yeah.
Thank you. We put a lot of time into it. We had it was tough kind of getting it going, and I wasn't, I wouldn't suggest to everybody do this because you gotta know that you have fans. You gotta know that there's an audience there that wants your
Exactly.
book, and that's why it's a number two and not a number one. It's we had the mailing list built up and the network built up, and being able to come on live streams like this one to be able to promote the book and things like that. So having that sort of groundwork laid, and if you think about how far it goes back, all the way to that ash can that we made in 2011, is building that momentum towards being able to jump off of that corporate crowdfunding train and sort of make it on our own.
Yeah,
So
totally, man. Yeah, and I agree, Paul. If the crowdfunding site actively works against your project being discovered, what exactly are you paying them a percentage for?
yep.
Get the word out, and I'll put that money in your hand. And like you were
Yeah.
talking about, if you're gonna have to basically just get all the business through you putting the link out and doing all the time and the effort and everything, you might as well just do the whole thing on your own site.
Yeah. And the way I look at it is Indiegogo has a fee. Kickstarter, they all have fees, right? Um, Thank you. I got some of the Ripa. I work for Eric Jelena. I got some of the Ripa crew in here, Carol
Oh
and
yeah, yeah. Hey, what's
Andrew and
up?
all that. Yeah. They have their fees, right? And if they're actively like letting you on the search and all of that, then maybe that fee's worth it. But you look at Cyberfrog Wrecked Planet, it made over $1 million, which is incredible. Absolutely incredible. Indiegogo got 50 grand for that. And if you could do that, if Battle Brick Road 2 makes $1 million, Indiegogo's not getting 50 grand of that. I'm getting 50 grand of that. That's going into making more Battle Brick Road, and not just hopefully they decide not to, on a whim, turn it off on their end and
Yeah.
say no more free promo for you. You get nothing.
Well, I mean, even to bring it down to the terms in which, didn't you raise 100,000 or so on the first one?
Mm-hmm.
So that was a big chunk of change.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
if you had it on your own site, you'd pocket that.
That was yeah. It would have been an extra more than 5 grand that we would have been able to use to put
Yeah.
towards again the next book, hiring other artists or creatives to work on other things for us. So yeah. But the 5 grand that they got from that 100,000, it's arguable that I made more than that off of their platform because I wasn't shadow banned. So at that time, it
Exactly.
may have been worth it. But now it's like I
Yeah.
don't see
Now
how that squares.
it's a whole different ball game now.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. And you also got the first one on Fund My Comic, right? Are you thinking of putting the second one
Yes.
eventually down the line? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Eventually, when we're like the book's printed, like yeah, we will go into the other crowdfunding websites, Fund My Comic, Indiegogo, Kickstarter. I'm a proponent of casting as many lines into as many ponds as you can to catch as many proverbial fish as you can. So yes, but I don't want to have all these campaigns open at the same time.
I hear you.
I one it can be a bit of a headache,
Totally.
but as long as like this one's open and then it's closed. So like right now we have 27 and some odd days left for Battlebrick Road 2 on our own website. And that's when the crowdfunding will end and will go into in demand. So there's really no in demand on our own website. So it'll be like, okay, well, those discounts that are there now for bundles are going to go away. So,
okay.
Yeah. But then when the inevitable other crowdfunds happen for Battlebrick Road 2, there probably won't be an in demand because we'll be ready to go at that time. It'll just be like, if by some chance the new one's not shadow banned, then there's going to be people that find it.
Yeah.
Like I hadn't even. Here's just something funny. We were at the end of the first 30 days, like a week ago, and I hadn't even thought once to update my Indiegogo for Battlebrick Road 1 to say, "Hey, Battlebrick Road 2 is here." I didn't think about that till there was like a day left of the campaign, so I put out an update on there, and it was over. It was like Friday. It was perfect timing, like payday wise, and we got like 25 backers over the weekend. Like it really shot us up. It was really great. We went from like 24 grand to 20. What are we at? 20. It was 24 to 27 over the weekend. Last weekend, it was like bonehead.
Nice.
Why didn't you think of that sooner?
Yeah, they're probably all sitting around like, where is this?
Where's this
I
book?
signed up and
Yeah.
what's going on?
Yeah.
That's great, man. Well, we got somebody waiting in the wings, so let's bring him on. We got Death Metal Hero. What's up,
What's
Luke?
up, man?
What's up,
Hey,
gentlemen? How are you? Good to see you, Eric. Good to see you, Pete.
Hey, good to see you, man.
You guys were actually talking about what I wanted to ask you. Do you think that owning your own website and putting your book up there is the future of crowdfunding? Because you both have been doing this from the beginning. You've both been doing the crowdfunding thing from the very beginning, and you've seen how this whole scene has changed. You've seen how the market has changed. Is this the way forward for independent creators making their own site? You know, if they have the audience. You know, I heard you say, you know, you got to have the audience to be there for it. So, I guess that's my question. Is this the way forward for us?
I think it's a way forward.
Okay.
I think that there still is a place for getting onto Kickstarter or Indiegogo or Fund My Comic because there are audiences there. As long as that whole shadow ban thing isn't there. But,
exactly.
Yeah, at least from my perspective, doing your own website, unless you have, I guess, reasons to just not want to be on there ever at all on any of those websites, do it. But yeah, I think there's a way. There's still a reason to use them right now. But if you have the audience to be able to push it on your own, I'd say go for it.
All the more money that you can reinvest in yourself and your company and your product.
Yeah, and it's not just like even right now, like I'm not waiting on Indiegogo for it's not tied up in Indiegogo's pocket, and they're earning interest on it or wherever they put it, right?
Yeah,
I get paid out every few days. I get deposits into the bank account that instantly I'm able to put people to work right away. I don't have to wait till the campaign's over. That's a 60-day, and generally speaking, a 60-day window where you're waiting for money before you can put that money to use. Well, I can put it to use now, and I'm that much further ahead on production of the book just because I have the money right now. So just that small thing is a big deal.
I mean, it's a way to keep the ball rolling. You've got that extra influx, and you can start. Hey, I need to get this rolling right now. Get this merch rolling. Get hats set up, or beanies, or posters, or T-shirts, or whatever.
Yeah, you can be way more flexible with it, and way quicker to adapt and pivot. And yeah, I mean I 100%. That what Eric said was great, and I absolutely agree. And the other thing I would add to it is I think not only is that a good move for creators to feel like that's a good step for them to take. Obviously, I don't think it's exactly what Eric said. It's not literally like that's it. You do that and game over. Everything is hunky dory. Sure. I think that there's a position that a lot of other even publishers should consider in terms of getting to that level of selling direct, doing that kind of stuff within their site, whatever it may be. It's so important that once you hit a certain stage that you have to have something where you're directing people. You have a headquarters, right? You're directing people to that. That's one of the biggest issues that I've seen backers have, where they're like, it's just like crowdfunder to crowdfunder to crowdfunder with a certain creator. It's like, okay, they've done like 5 to 10 now. You know, can they have a site? Can there be somewhere else where I can get a bunch of those things that I may have missed on without, you know, just every single thing's a crowdfunder every single time.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, you need a home base. And
Agreed.
right away, I'd say no, because you have nothing. You don't even know. A lot of creators, let's be honest, a lot of creators maybe make one book and they're out.
Sure.
Because they're like, I had no idea about how tough this would be.
Isn't
This is
that
not
the
for me.
truth?
You know, so I'd say there's roughly like 60% of creators that I've seen over the years, one book done, never
Yeah.
again. You know, maybe
It's
they'll work
stressful.
for people on other books, but like doing the whole like entrepreneur thing, not for them.
Yeah.
You know, then you get like 20% where they're going to make a couple of books every now and then, and you know, every maybe 2 or 3 years they'll put out a new thing or a new campaign or something. And then you'll get the other 20% that are like, this is it. This is my career. This is life for me. This is what I do predominantly for a living. I'm doing something all the time, every
Yeah.
couple of months, every year, et cetera, et cetera. So those people in particular absolutely need to do something like what Eric's doing.
Yeah.
You know, and a couple other creators too, like Bancroft is doing that. I mean, Alterna, if we weren't doing that and we weren't selling direct, we would have been done by now. We would have been
Sure.
done a few years ago, because when everything happened with Diamond and we were losing like 12,000 reorders after the first year of doing the newsprint stuff, and we'd already
Right.
been with Diamond since 2008.
Yeah.
I was like, well, if we don't sell direct, that's 12,000 orders we're losing. And then people are just going to go to like eBay and maybe pay. I saw people paying like $15 an issue on eBay, and that's great for the person
Holy
selling it
cow.
on eBay.
Right.
But
that
I'm
doesn't
looking
affect
back
you.
at the inventory, and I'm like, we overprinted like 1,000 of this. I got it here for
mean-
$1.50, and they're going to eBay.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose
Hey,
you could open up your own eBay store and try to, sell them for 15
That's
bucks.
that's
but-
that's a good that's a good avenue too, to get even on eBay, and I've put things on there too in the past. I mean, we started on Etsy first, and then the Etsy store became the same
Right.
situation with what was happening with Eric with Indiegogo. Not that we were getting banned, but we were looking at it. I looked at the first year of being on Etsy, and I'm like, man, I could have bought like a brand new car in cash. Not that I would have, but that's how much money in fees. That was a lot
Yeah.
of money.
They add up.
Yeah.
They
So
really
yeah,
really
they
do.
add up. I was on the phone with them, and that was the experience I had with Etsy, where I was like, I can't do this, because I was on the phone trying to get an understanding of why does this fee seem way higher than it should be, and they were like, well, there's that fee, and then there's that fee, and then there's the other fee, and I was like, oh my lord. I was like, I just got to go to a website where I'm paying like $300 a year, and then they're getting like 2%, through the credit card processing, and then that's it.
Yeah.
And if we didn't do that, we wouldn't be in a position right now to even be around. So I recommend for creators, absolutely, when you get a certain point, and you'll feel exactly like what Eric described before, where you're like, it feels like I'm just directing everybody to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're
know?
doing all
And-
the legwork for yourself anyway, and you're driving
That's
all
the
the traffic
thing.
to their
Yep.
site,
Yeah.
like you said, man, drive them to your site.
Yeah. In what we do, it's a link on social media, it's a link in the chat on YouTube. Why not make that link yours? And even if Pete, you gave 3 examples of like 3 sort of pillars of whether you're the one timer or the somewhat timer or the full timer. The idea of at least just having a website that is yours where you can direct people, even if it just redirects to a crowdfund, or it's a website where there's links on there to whatever you have, read your preview and then click on here for Indiegogo. Even that is great to have, because even way back when we did Flying Fortress, we had done all sorts of that. We had printed it in floppies, and we had done trades. We did crowdfunding. We did it as a web comic, like this one that looked like it was. I made all the coloring, halftone, screen tone coloring, and
Oh,
we
wow.
made it look all torn up and vintage. We tried that. And we only were able to do that because we were like, hey, when we're at the cons, buy the book. Oh, if you want to read it online, you can flyingfortresscomic.com. And so that was sort of the catalyst for me to think, okay, because when Battlebrick Road had started, I had other URLs before we came up with a name. So, it was like ozcomic.com and what have you before I landed on Battlebrick Road. But even when the first campaign was going, battlebrickroad.com existed, and I was able to just say, you don't have to go to Indiegogo and then search for Battlebrick Road. You just go to battlebrickroad.com and take you where you need to go. So even if you're not going to do your own website where you're
just
trying
get a
to be in
domain
control,
forwarding
just
going.
get a domain forwarding,
Yep.
and at least it's your title. At least you can have that, and people know, oh, it's nameofcomic.com. You got
It's easy
that.
for people to
That's a
find.
good step. Yep,
Yeah.
very easy for people to find. You can print them on a business card if you're doing conventions.
QR
Like-
codes, man.
Yep,
QR
there you
codes
go.
are great. All they got to do is put their camera on it and takes them right
Yep,
there.
takes them right there.
Yep. That's exactly what I'm doing at kingcryptid.com. They can go to the Alterna site and find it nice and easy, or just go to kingcryptid.com, takes you to the Indiegogo. And if we stop doing Indiegogo, it'll just take you one day right to the Alterna site, directly to the campaign that's on there. And I recommend that. And that's super cheap. You can just get them for like $10 to $15 and then just domain
A year.
forward it. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Yep.
It's definitely a bonus positive. Gerald says, is it necessary to crowdfund if you do everything on your book? Can have 100 copies of your book and perks like trading cards printed in hand. Build the audience using the book in hand as a selling key. I think, and I can't speak for everybody, but I've seen a mass consensus on this. Especially if you're a first-time creator getting something out there. People, for some reason, and I gotta say, I feel kind of the same, would see something on crowdfunding from a first-timer, as long as it looks, again, I'm just saying it looks good and everything else, that has to be key of it, a key component, that it looks solid, it's put together in a concise way.
Yeah.
It is a more trustworthy, familiar type experience than if someone were to set up their own site and then just sell it direct, or as a pre-order, or as an in-stock item right now, and and no one's ever heard of you. There's a psychological factor in there where they see it on somewhere that's more familiar. It's an easier process to understand. And I would also say that there's a lot of people who will put together their own site sometime, and it's not as smooth looking as what Eric's got. And it is a total nightmare, a total mess. And then the consumer confidence aspect of it goes down the toilet. So you might have this great thing that if you put on a crowdfunding site would have done fine. But because like whatever site you're using or your website design skills are lacking or whatever it may be, you're having a lot of problems getting people to have trust in purchasing from you because it just doesn't look that great. So I would definitely say if you're a first timer or a second timer, whatever it may be, you're new to this, I would still say that even if you can get it done and you can get everything done beforehand and your fulfillment time would be very, very quick, I would still say give the crowdfunding aspect of it a try.
Absolutely. And like you said, the confidence thing, the psychological aspect of it, because people want to feel like they can be confident in giving their money to somebody that they're going to get a product. And if it's on an established site, then that gives them the sense of, comfort, gives them the sense of security.
Unless, of course, you're like Eric July, let's say.
Right.
And you've already, you've got a built audience. You've been out there for, you know what I mean? And then you set up a site that like sort of mirrors in functionality a lot of these other sites. But if you're not, a lot of people are not in that kind of either frame of mind to put that together or the know-how or whatever it may be, even the investment to get stuff like that going. Utilize the crowdfunding aspect. Don't think of it, because I see so many people going, crowdfunding just equals you're raising the money only to get the thing done. So if you're able to get it done, you should have no business using crowdfunding. And that is like a way back in the day kind of aspect of it, when we all thought crowdfunding equaled GoFundMe. Right. We were charity cases on there being like, for $1 a day, you can support me to make this book, please. And it's like that was like a back in the day thing when none of us knew what the hell to do other than act like e-beggars.
Right.
because it just didn't seem like it didn't really make sense. Understanding it then eventually is like, oh, this is just another way to sell something and have the aspect of utilizing the crowd to engage with them, let them know about stuff, and and all of that came together eventually, and we got more and more away from the aspect of like treating ourselves as a charity case,
Right.
and it turned into, hey, let's all make this cool thing possible.
Well, we were able to
yeah.
turn it into a business, at least a business model.
Yeah, and if you're able to do it now and get all your stuff ready, I would say that then make the point of your crowdfunder, if you want to have it in your mind, make it that it's raising money to help you make the next one.
Yep.
Absolutely.
This book's done. I want to keep doing it. Help me raise money for it, because that guarantees book two. Like,
Help me reinvest in the company. Help me reinvest in me, so that you can get more of this awesome story that I got to tell.
Yeah.
It's not just, the crowd isn't just funding the project. They're also funding what's behind that project, what's pushing that project, whether it be you or your team or what have you. That whole idea is to get use that platform to reach more people. So yes, you have the book done, you have 100 copies. What if you did a crowdfund and you sold 500 books? Now you're 400 books shy, and you could have saved a little money on printing by being able to print them all at once instead of printing 100 at first, and now you got 100. But now I got to go back for 400 more. It's a good problem to have, obviously, but
Sure.
But yeah, if it's a situation where it's done, then you're giving your customer peace of mind, knowing, one, it's on a website that for the most part should be trustworthy, and two, that you're a reliable creator and you can put a book out and get it to them on time, and hopefully keep them sort of as a fan, as a new reader that you've picked up along the way.
Build that reputation, because in this scene we're not just selling, like you said, we're not just selling the product, we're also selling us, as a creator. We've got to pitch us to the people, the audience. They're investing in us as opposed to just a book, by a faceless creative team. They know us. We have this level of intimacy in this scene that is almost unheard of. The only way to get this kind of interaction with the audience was at conventions. But now, because of StreamYards, because of these the computers and whatnot, we can actually interact. I mean, look at all the amazing people in the chat right now. It's great. It's a new frontier for all of us.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's great to see people become entrepreneurs, not just comic creators. To see people actually take control of their comic and view it as a business, take control of their creative endeavors, and view it in a way that, hey, maybe this can actually be sustainable for me. Maybe this could be something I can do. This is real. That was not a possibility for a lot of people until this kind of thing became a tool that we could actually use in a way. Because the biggest hurdle for indie creators and just even honestly like corporations in general is marketing, is getting the word out.
Yeah.
It's not, people think it's like the aspect of creation or the aspect of getting the product made. That stuff is child's play compared to actually getting the word out.
Yes.
That's the thing you're going to be like, how the hell do I make that happen? And in a great, effective way where I'm not losing my damn mind, spending a ton of money on ads that I don't know if they're actually going to land. Am I even doing the ads right? Does anyone even like these? Do they see the ad and go, oh, that thing?
Is anybody paying attention? Yeah, exactly.
So to engage in a genuine way and to get the word out there, it's like this magic mix of, it takes a while to figure out how to do it. But, luckily we're living in a time where it's getting a little bit better. We're figuring it out. But yeah. And
even with all this technology, word of mouth still seems to be the best way to get the word out about something.
Absolutely.
It's true. Like, that's true. Like for everything, like, a real world example, we bought this house and the fence was shitty and we needed to replace it. And so it's been torn down, but it's like, and we want to get a quote. And one of our friends just had their fence installed. So it's like word of mouth, because he did a good job for them. Like, now we know who we're at least going to ask, where instead of like flipping through, I guess the yellow pages, they don't do that anymore, but looking online or whatever for
Yeah, scrolling through the Yelp
No, we got
pages.
easier
Yeah.
ways to be creepy
Yeah.
and stalkery now.
yeah, absolutely. But it's that word of mouth thing is what I'm getting at, and it's just
Yeah.
that's the tale as old as time in terms of being the entrepreneur trying to get the word out. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, would you tell your friends? So
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Delivering a good product and building that reputation of delivering on what you say you're going to do
Yep.
is one of the best ways to build that, build that word of mouth. People enjoy
Absolutely.
what you did for them. They go and tell their friends because we like to tell our friends about stuff that we enjoy.
Yeah,
You know?
and
Yes.
as long as you're approaching it in a genuine way, and it comes through too. When you're excited about it, you're passionate about the thing that you're
Yep.
doing, the thing you're making. It's infectious, in the
really
best
is.
possible way. Green Laser. Usually the orders take 5 to 7 business days to get out, but tomorrow and Monday are like 100%. I'm just packing up stuff for 12 to 14 hours for each day. So that will definitely be shipping out on Monday or Tuesday in terms of your order. Thank you so much for your patience, brother. Appreciate it. But and that also has to do with Alternaween stuff too. A lot, if not almost all, the Alternaween stuff is getting out by Monday and Tuesday.
That's
Very,
so
very
awesome.
few people. Yeah, it was great. I think we were shipping out like close to 3,000 books in total, including the 200 that are
Wow.
going to comic books for kids. So
Love it.
it's just awesome to get these books out there for people that are going to be using them as trick or treats. And just, I've said it before, and I'm going to keep saying it because we're going to keep doing Alternaween every year. But I can't wait till like 10, 15, 20 years goes by, let's say, and we have various people across the board that eventually are doing interviews just like this one. And someone goes, "So what was your first comic book?" And they go, "Ah, it's strange you say. It's I got it on Halloween as a trick or treat." It's some alternate comics book, and it's like because people came on board to do that and give those things out on Halloween and spread the great word of comic books. You got comics into the hands of people that, let's face it, sometimes they're never going to discover them depending on their circumstance.
Yeah.
So you could be encouraging the next great comic creator or the next great comic book lover in terms of reading them and loving the hobby, and the stories being told by participating in stuff like that, or even just doing that with some of your own books that you have and things like that. That if you're out there as a creator or a fan, so it's a wonderful thing, and it's a fun little aspect of it. What kid wouldn't want to get a comic book with some candy
Right?
on Halloween?
Yep.
And I mean, it's better for them, arguably better for them than the candy that is being given out. I mean, considering all the stuff that's put into candy these days, the chemicals.
It's
and
way better
whatnot,
stuff
so,
going in these independent comics than there is going into that candy.
100%.
Absolutely, yeah. Healthier for the heart, mind, and soul.
That's right.
That's for sure.
Foster that love of reading.
Absolutely.
Good for the mind.
Yeah. Especially there's so many great and varied things being created in the indie comics sphere, which is so funny considering the big old D word. And I'm not thinking about that one, guys. But that loves to be touted around in the corporate sphere. And then meanwhile you look at all of it and you're like, all your characters sound the same, act the same, behave the same, sort of even look the same. That's not really diverse. I don't think you know what that word means. Inigo
You
Montoya.
keep using this word. I don't think
Yeah.
you know what it means.
Exactly. It's interesting. Meanwhile, you look in the indie comics realm of everything going on, whether it's Comicsgate, and that's indie as well, of course, but just the whole sphere of independent creation. And you're not seeing just like the same character and the same thing with the same tone and the same story. Like you're seeing all this whole variety of design,
There's so
of character.
many, so many great stories out there.
Yeah,
Really are.
Yeah,
It's
and
amazing.
great new characters. It's all new. It's all like fresh and exciting. It's not like, okay, well, this
Exactly
character's
what I was
been around
thinking.
for 80 years.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
yeah,
Even
let's get
something like what you're doing with Battle Brick Road, even though it's inspired by Wizard of Oz, that scarecrow design is awesome, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, holy smokes. And so you got like this whole aspect of it where you feel the love for the source material that you're basing it on, but you've made it entirely your own. So it's not turning into something that's disrespecting, and it's also not turning into something where you're just aping it and kind of just saying, well, it's just a graphic novel adaptation of Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
You're bringing something new to the party.
Totally.
Yeah. We're putting a lot of, and we put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into it too. And I think that's
reading
important.
it, you
and
can
I don't know
tell.
if they're doing that. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah. Dude, I loved the first book. I mean, I told you after I opened it on What's in the Box, I sat down and read the whole thing like right after that. It was a great read. It was
Thank
a lot
you.
of fun, and I'm looking forward to the next one. So if you guys didn't get the first one, jump on it, get this
Absolutely.
book, and get
Yes.
the first one.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
The first one was a lot of fun, man.
Yeah.
A lot of
Thank you.
fun. And this second one looks even better. Sean, thank you, brother, for becoming a member of the channel.
What's up,
Appreciate
Sean?
that.
What's up, brother?
Good to see
Have
you,
fun
man.
with all the emojis on there. Gerald goes, thanks for answering my question. I have a 4-book story arc for the character. I advertised this in the back of the 0-issue first book for the next 3 books, and then overall story arc on the site. And he said no pre-order, and it's been 6 days. That's why I asked. Yeah, I would recommend, look at whatever your crowdfunding platform of choice may be. Take a look at what speaks to you in terms of the features on there, in terms of the back end, the bells and whistles of it, and give one a go. Whether that's Fund My Comic, Indiegogo, Kickstarter, whatever it may be, and then make sure also that you're on a platform somewhere spreading the word, whether that's a newsletter you've built up, or you're on various social media, or you've got YouTube, or utilize all of them as much as you can, Instagram, whatever it is, and get that out there. One thing that's really important, it doesn't matter what platform you use or your own site, and I find a lot of people ignore this aspect of it. They start to crowdfund before they crowd build. Crowd build first.
Yeah.
You got to have a crowd to fund from before, so you got to build that crowd. And you got to build your platform. You got to
and
build
you
your voice.
you can build the crowd with the comics. You can do that.
Sure.
You just got to make them accessible.
Free previews. Again,
free
that's where the
previews,
website
web
comes
comics, doing the convention scene. If it takes, like it took me, half a decade of just doing it on your own to build an audience, then that's something you got to do. And there's a lot of ways of doing that.
All depends on how dedicated you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and Sean, thank you so much for the $2 super chat, brother. Says Scarecrow is awesome. Hail panel. There you go.
Thanks, Sean.
And yeah, that's the thing, is that don't treat it like it's Field of Dreams, where you built the book, you built whatever, and now people will come.
They will come.
It can
that's
feel
great.
like
I
that
love
though,
that.
right? It can be like, well, it's here. Why doesn't nobody know about it? Why doesn't everybody know about this thing that is created? Because it's my whole world. Why isn't it everybody else's whole world?
Exactly.
Exactly. So
got to get the word out there first.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just screaming into the void.
And now more
that's
than
why-
ever before, where the playing field's been so leveled, you got to think that
Very
means
much
there's
leveled.
way more competition than ever before. So you got to find a way to get the word out.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got to stand out from the crowd. All the more now. You've got to have a unique voice and do something fun with your characters.
Totally. Yeah. And the way I like to paint the picture of it is think about, and we've all been to these conventions where you go and they're kind of dead. Like no one's going, right? You're sitting there and you're like, man, no one's here. What a horrible show. And you're like, but it's local, it's cheap, I'll go next year. Then next year, something happens where the word has spread. There's so many people, but there's the same amount of creators because the word hasn't really spread to them. And now you're like, oh, wow, this is actually a good show. And now then the third year, all of a sudden, everyone else is there too. All the creators are there, packed in there. There's so many people that are still going. But you're like, man, last year was better. What happened? And it's like, because there's so many more people now. So you have to find a way to stand out. You have to mix it up. You got to offer something. Put that banner up. You got to make a little bit more noise about it, and that's all it really is.
Absolutely. Get them eyeballs. You gotta attract that attention.
Exactly.
The crowd building doesn't stop just because you've gotten the word out a little bit. You got to keep going. It's always you always got to keep on that grind. Always got to keep connecting with your audience and hopefully building new audience. Inviting new people to come hang out, come join this party because we having a lot of fun over here.
Yeah,
That's the way I look at it.
And let's see, Alex, and I'll let Eric handle this question because he's been doing so good with these two tonight. It says, this may have already been said, but would you guys say Comic-Cons are the best way to get the word out?
No, not the best way. It is a way. But it's a pricey way of doing it. You've got travel fees, hotels, table costs, prints, all of that stuff. Whereas if you have a YouTube channel or a network of YouTube channels you can go on, what's that cost you? An hour
Yeah.
a night? That's the most cost-effective way of doing it. I will say, yes, get out there and do conventions, because you will find people that are just walking through. I mean, when I was doing it back in the day, it was people coming to Artist Alley because they want something fresh. And they wouldn't have found you. Maybe, a lot of these people, probably, at least back then,
Yeah.
they weren't on social media or anything. So the only way they're going to find your book is at a convention. So make that a part of it. At least maybe do one a year at least if you want to try and grow it. But no, it's not the best way to get the word out. But it is a tool in your tool belt for sure.
Yeah.
And I would add one piece of advice to that. After doing like maybe 30 conventions in my life, I would say that scope out the convention first before you sign up to get a table.
Yes.
It's very rare you're gonna sign up for a convention without ever going as a fan or anything like that, and have an idea of how to succeed. You want to see, like, what's this crowd like? What's the venue like? What's the atmosphere? Where do they put Artist Alley? Is Artist Alley like the thing they don't want, the little dark secret that's in the corner? And everyone's like, hello, we make arts.
It's the weird room that smells.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And everyone's like, okay, goodbye. Is that
Yeah.
how it is? Because the atmosphere turns sour real fast. Nothing's worse than a sour Artist Alley where everyone's just like, great, we're going to just
Oh
die
yeah,
here.
you walk down Artist Alley and it's just nothing but dour heads down
Yeah.
drawing, and nobody
You
has
know.
a smile on their face. Nobody looks like they're having fun. I mean, nobody
Yeah.
wants to walk through that.
Yeah, so
Nope.
every convention has a life of its own. I would really suggest scoping them out. Just go check it out if you want to exhibit at one. Give it a shot one year, and then go, okay, I'll sign up. It looked like it was a really good show. And even talk to the people that are there and be like, I'm thinking of getting a table here. How's this show for you guys? You recommend it?
Yeah.
And see what the
And do
crowd
that
is
at-
like.
And do that on a Sunday when the people
Yes.
have had 2 days of the con, and if they had a good con or a bad
Yeah.
con, do that on
Yeah.
a Sunday. Yeah.
That
Great
is the
advice.
true gauge.
Yes.
Yeah.
The level of excitement by Sunday, afternoon. Are they still, pumped and having a good time at the convention, or are they ready to pack up and get out of there?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Man,
Or
oh,
if you
man.
walk in and Artist Alley is a ghost town because they've already left, you're like, okay, maybe not this convention.
Right.
Yeah, because I've been at some where I'm like, I went one year and I didn't ask anyone. This was years ago, and I was like, it looks like a decent enough show. Okay. And then I went and exhibited, and I wish I did ask people, because I was like, I thought that this would be busier. Last year looked so great. And they're like, yeah, some years are like this. It really depends what celebrity guests he gets and where you get positioned, where that line's going to be. Because if you're not anywhere close to certain spots, forget
Right.
it. You're never going to see any human being that whole 3-day weekend.
You might find somebody that got lost on the
You're-
way over to the
Yeah.
other side.
So
Trying
I
to
had
find the
to-
bathroom.
Yeah,
Yes.
I ended up more time away from my table at that show than any other show, just going to the lines and handing out things and being like, "Oh, I'm over at table, blah blah blah. If this looks interesting, come check it out." And
Yeah.
and it's because no one was at the table for the first day and a half. So that whole
Yeah.
Sunday was just like
That
out and
hurts.
about, trying to just break even on the table.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, man, oh man, this was a great conversation. And Luke, I'm gonna have to let you go, brother. But I'm looking forward to
Absolutely.
talking to you next Friday night, my friend.
Thank you for having me. Eric, always good to see you. Pete, I look forward to
Good to see
talking
you
with you,
again, Luke.
man. It's always a pleasure. Thank you, gents.
Take it easy, man. Have a great night. And Eric, this has been a blast, man. I'm so glad I was able to talk to you and have you on the show.
Of course.
And I wish nothing but success for you with Battle Brick Road 2. And there you go, guys. Check it out. It is on battlebrickroad.com. Become a backer today, tomorrow, anytime, as long as you get in on it. It's good stuff.
Yes.
And Eric, before we do go, where can they find you?
Obviously, battlebrickroad.com. Or I'm on X, Eric_Weathers. Same on Instagram. and my YouTube. Just search my name. I should be the one that comes up these days. The guy that draws the comic books and letters the comic books. So, yeah.
Good stuff, man. And for those that aren't aware, one more time, I'm going to give a shout out. The King Cryptid campaign tonight. The patches, it's the last night to get them. $10 for the Velcro patch set. You get the logo and the New England Cryptid Research Organization patch. And also, it's the last night to get that secret perk. I've got the link pinned to the top of the chat for now, and that's about it. You get that art book. It's $25. The patches ship free worldwide. The art book ships free in the U.S. And Sean, thank you, man, for the super chat. Says just got the digital first 4 issues of King Cryptid. Thank you, brother. And says already backed Battle Brick Road 2. There you go.
Thank you. Thanks, Sean.
But everybody, take it easy. Have a wonderful night. I'm going to be back Tuesday because, like I said, I'm packing up Sunday and Monday. I'm going to be a packing fiend, getting all books out to you guys. Thank you very much for your support, and thank you guys for being here tonight as well. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Eric, for being here as well. Appreciate you,
Thanks,
brother.
Pete.
I'm going to go let you get back to lettering the next 150 books and finishing Battle Brick Road 2.
All right, let's do it.
Everybody, take it easy. Have a wonderful night and an even better tomorrow. See you guys.